You're watching PEGRI TV, Rhode Island's public access channel.
Hi folks, and welcome to another edition of An Hour with Bob. Got a treat for you today. Got an old friend, been on the show a few times over the years. I went to see him last Sunday night, or Sunday night before that? Yeah, over at the Comedy Connection. John Perrotta, how you doing? Nice
Good,
to
how
see
you doing, Bob? Always great to see you.
Yeah, nice to see you.
Great to see you.
What, you've been on here, what, 3, 4 times?
It's got to be my fourth time,
Fourth
30
time?
years.
Yeah?
Yeah, always had fun.
Yeah.
Always enjoyed coming on.
Now, you started in the comedy 1990, 91?
Well, I got up in 83, got up once, did really well, then I bombed twice and I walked away.
And that was the end of it.
And then I took, Frank O'Donnell had a comedy class in 91 at the Learning, I think it was a Learning Connection.
Oh, yeah,
called,
yeah,
the
yeah.
Learning Center, and I took that class. There were 20 students, and I got up on stage, I did really well. Then I got up the next time at the Bonneview in Narragansett for a guy called Brian Derry. I hosted the show and I bombed. And I had to make a decision. This is not going to be easy. You're going to get your laughs, but then you're going to have your nights where you cannot buy a laugh.
Right, yeah.
So I had to make a decision. All right, I want to stick with this. I'm going to have my ups and downs. And I
Right.
stuck with it, and persistence paid off. And eventually I got pretty decent comic, enough to start getting paid work and
Right.
running my own company. And it takes time and a lot of persistence. You got to really want it.
I can remember when I had my restaurant. I had a restaurant in the 80s, from 84 to 89. I had a pub in Pawtucket, and I had this guy, a mailman, used to come in all the time.
I remember the mailman.
And
Yeah.
he did the comedy. He talked us into going to see him this one night.
I remember him, yeah.
And he was at Periwinkle's on the
I
second
saw him.
floor
I
of
worked with him.
Periwinkle's.
Yeah.
And he went up there and he bombed. I felt so bad for him. He bombed so bad it was awful.
Yeah.
I felt for the guy. I really felt for the guy, and I said I could never do that.
Not always easy.
I don't mind. I mean, I love public speaking. I love
Yeah.
getting in front of people, but doing comedy, I think that's a different routine.
Oh yeah,
To
you got to
get
make them laugh.
Yeah, if you don't make them laugh,
you got to keep the laughs coming, you know. And if something doesn't go, you can't. You know, you got to say to yourself,
you
"All
can't
right,
live
I'm on
with
to
it,
the
right?
next
You got to
thing."
go with something else.
You might say in your head, well, they usually laugh at that, but they didn't for some reason. Go to the next thing.
Well, the
can't-
crowd makes a difference, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you're not going to tell an old group a joke that you would tell a younger group.
Yeah, it varies. You got to read. You got to know your audience and read your audience. If you have an older crowd, you don't want to really swear much. And
Right.
I try to be. I don't really swear much in my act anyway anymore.
Right.
But if I have an older crowd, especially, I'll watch the material I do versus if I have a younger crowd.
Right.
Like I booked the Comedy Connection for the newer comics once or twice a month on a Sunday, and it's a younger audience mostly. There's some older people, but a younger audience, so you can kind of get a little more.
Well, I was there.
Yeah, but you can get a little spicy. I know you were there. You can get a little more spicy there
Yep.
on a Sunday night when you got some younger people and But certain crowds you want to watch out.
Yeah, you got to be careful what you say, right?
Yeah, you don't want to start offending people.
Well, how do you deal with this? Nowadays it's a lot different than it was with Richard Pryor days when you could just say almost anything to anybody.
Yeah.
Nowadays you got to be careful.
Well, I don't
The
do
sex,
any.
you gotta be careful.
I do no political humor.
Right.
Because half the people love Trump, half the people don't like him, and I don't do any. I stay away from political humor. I don't want
Right.
to get in the middle of anything. I don't want to start anything. Some people can do it and they get away with it. They do it a certain way, but I find for me, and when I started, I did political humor. In '91, I did political humor, and I don't do any political humor whatsoever anymore in my act. Very seldom.
Speaking of doing political humor, living and dying with it, look at not John, what's his name? Steve Colbert. I mean,
Yeah.
he lives by it.
He lives by it. Some guys.
It's ridiculous now. He's
Yeah.
gotten to the point it's off the charts.
Yeah, yeah.
That's all he does now.
That's all he does, yeah. I don't know. I'm not into the political humor. I just
But-
hope the
but you-
country straightens out one way or the other, whoever's in.
Yeah.
That's
yeah,
what I hope.
Yeah. But you can't even say, nationality stuff. You can't say stuff against a particular sex or a
I
group.
get away with some stuff because I'm a Don Rickles type. I work the audience, so I can get away with certain stuff. I just do. I get away with it, but I watch how I do it. You know what I mean? I don't cross the line. I might go right up to the line, but I don't cross it. So like one night I looked at a guy and I knew he was Puerto Rican, and I said, "Look at this guy. You Puerto Rican? I'm worried about my hubcaps in the parking lot." And everybody laughed. And the guy was cool. He was cool with it, and he said, "I'm Puerto Rican." And then I said, "Why do you take 3 hubcaps and leave the last one? Why don't you take them all?" And so, and it just got a laugh, But I got to know. I don't want some Puerto Rican guy. I'm like, I don't think I want to kill.
Right? Yeah.
But
yeah.
they, if you do it right, you can bust nationalities and get away with it. You gotta do it right.
Well, speaking of Don Rickles, didn't we go see Don Rickles one
I
time?
went with you, and we saw Don Rickles and Joan Rivers at the Warwick tent. I went up to the fence. I talked to Don Rickles, who's
Yep.
my idol. He sent me an autographed picture, which I lost to this day. I'm looking
No.
for it. He said to John, "Best wishes, Don Rickles," and that meant the world to me. And I don't know what
Sure.
happened to it. So I'm hoping that comes up someday. I haven't been able to find it, but that was a thrill meeting him.
Oh yeah. In fact, he did that day. He did several promos for me for
Yeah,
my show.
he was an awesome-
Bob's Big Adventures. Oh, I watched. He did a nice one. I watch Bob's Big Adventure all the time when I'm in Rhode Island. And then he did another take.
Yeah.
He goes, "Bob's Big Adventure. Who the heck is Bob's Big Adventure? I don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
Who's that? Who's he think he is? And you're even off on me."
He had the career of a lifetime. I got really lucky. I worked with this comedian, Tammy Pescatelli, in Connecticut, and a while went by, and she contacted me and she had an Italian-themed show at the Friars Club in New York City and asked me to be in it. That was a big thrill.
Sure.
I went to the Friars Club, and I got in there, and I was nervous. I'm in the
bet.
Milton Berle room, the Don Rickles room, Jerry Lewis, all the big stars. That's where they go. So I'm in the Friars Club, and I couldn't believe how nervous I was.
I'll bet. Yeah.
And I had to go up, and she decided to put me up last because I worked the audience. So everybody's going up and doing well. And then it was my turn to go up. I had to do 12 minutes. So I went up, and I just lit the crowd up. It was one of them nights when you're on.
Right,
I was
yeah.
doing great, and my time was up. I looked over at her. Well, she said, "Stay up there," and I did another 12 minutes.
Really?
So I actually closed the show at the Friars Club, one of the
Cool
thrills
as
of
that
my
is.
life, for 25
Wow.
minutes. And I did awesome. And that was a thrill for me. That was a thrill. And all in 3 months, the 3 biggest things happened to me.
Don Rickles.
Well, I met Don Rickles. That was a while back, but in August of 2017, I got a text from Bill Burr, who I helped start out years ago.
Right.
And Bill Burr asked me if I would open for him at the Hampton Beach Casino Ballroom in New Hampshire. So before 2,000 people, 2 shows, 2,000 a show, I did.
2,000 each show.
Yeah, I opened for him, and he did an hour and 20 each show. He's like a rock star. He come on, they go crazy. But Bill Burr's been great to me. We keep in touch, and it's a thrill because he started out just like I did, and he wound up going on to become one of the biggest comics in the country right now. And we keep in touch, and he remembered me, and that meant a lot to me. You know what I mean?
Sure.
That meant a lot. So that was a big 3 months. I worked with Lenny Clark from Boston, and I worked with Johnny J.J. Walker, Dynamite. I worked with him. So it was like a 3-month period where everything was happening. I thought, wow, this is cool.
Yeah,
and then it's
yeah.
back to reality, you know what I mean? Doing what I do, putting shows together around New England, having fun, which I love. I love the business. You know what I mean? I love it,
You know who I used to go all the time with? Joe Rocco had the Newport
yeah.
Comedy Series.
Yep.
I went almost every
Yeah,
week.
he had some great comedians.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And he had Greg Shoemaker. Did you ever see him?
I never saw him.
He was the funniest guy I've ever seen in my whole life.
Yeah, he's good.
He was
I
a
like that John Panette. He was the
Oh,
heavy
yeah.
guy that did the buffet stuff.
Yep.
He passed away young, unfortunately.
No, wait a minute. It wasn't Panette, the one that was on the
Seinfeld.
Seinfeld. He was on
He
the
was on
last
Seinfeld.
episode there. He was the
The
guy they
last
made fun of.
Yeah.
Right? He was
Yeah.
the guy that was across the street when they were walking down the street in Massachusetts somewhere. And I guess George said something about, look at that big fat guy or something like that.
A friend of mine, Stephanie Peters, a Boston comic, knew him well, and she said he was such a great guy. And that was
Yeah, I met him.
It was a shame that he passed young, you know. So the weight, you know what I mean, is tough. I'm on a diet now. I lost 44 pounds, so I'm trying to get the weight off.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's not easy, Bob.
No.
I like to eat. Like I told you before the show, normally I would eat supper at home.
At what time?
And then at 5 o'clock.
Okay.
And then I'd go do a comedy show. They'd say, help yourself to the buffet.
Oh,
and
no.
Being Italian, I cannot pass up free food. That's against our religion. So now I'm eating a buffet, not one plate, 2 or 3 plates.
Sure.
And now I perform. By the time I get done and I'm on the way home, I love New York Oneyville system wieners. So I got to go get 2 or 3 of them. And when I go to Oneyville, I put the whole place to work. I look at the French fry guy, I'll take a large fry. I look at the burger guy, throw on a burger for me.
No way.
Then I look at the wiener guy, throw on a couple of wieners. The coffee milk guy, I got him working. It's a rush. When I come in, there's like 4 or 5 guys, they start working. Plates are all in front of me. And it's like, I'm an overeater, Bob. When I went in Oneyville Wieners, it could be dead. When I went in, it was a rush. It was a rush. I'm serious, Bob. I can eat. I can eat. That's why I'm trying not to. I'm on protein shakes now, protein bars.
How's that working out for you?
Not easy. Not easy. It's not
When you're
easy.
watching somebody eating a veal parmesan right next to you, right?
It's tough. I go to these buffets because I'm doing shows and I see the buffets and I don't have anything. I just
Really?
It's been since July 9th.
Well, that's discipline. That's
I
discipline.
really want to do it. I want to lose 50 more. I want to get down to a good weight. I want to live. I'm 61. I want to live. I'm enjoying retirement. I retired after 35 years and 10 months, a year and a half ago.
At the prison.
Yeah, I was a correctional officer. It was a great place to work as a comic, Bob. I had a captive audience.
I couldn't leave.
I had a captive audience. They had to listen to me. So, and if you can make a serial killer laugh for 10 minutes, you're having a great set, right?
Yeah,
You're having a great set.
Well, you wouldn't want to make them mad.
Yeah, and you know the other thing, Bob, I'm having trouble with the internet. All these apps on the internet. The other night, I go on the internet. I wanted to cheat on my diet. I go on the internet. I go on Grindr. All I wanted, Bob, was a small tuna with provolone. They sent 3 guys over in their underwear. I didn't know Grindr was an app to meet guys. I'm just looking for a tuna sandwich. I mean, I'm not looking for much here. These 3 guys are in their underwear. They didn't even make me an antipasto. I said, get the heck out of here. What am I going to do with you guys?
Grindr's an app.
Grindr was an app to meet guys. I thought it was an app to get Riccati's. How the heck did I know? I thought you could get a sandwich delivered.
I wouldn't have known.
I didn't know.
I would have known. Grindr.
They're standing on the front porch. I didn't know what to do. 3 guys in their underwear. It was crazy, Bob.
What would you do if they came with a sandwich each?
Well, I would have ate the sandwich, but then I would have said, you guys are going to leave. I'm not that way. You know what I mean? It's crazy. These apps, you got to watch what you're going into, Bob.
I guess.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I watched you work the crowd at the Comedy Connection.
Yeah.
Last Sunday night it was. You're amazing how you get the crowd going, and you don't make anybody mad. I mean, there were people there you were nailing pretty good, but they were handling it.
I do it. I try to do it in a good-natured way. So if I see somebody get mad at me, I'll get away from them.
Right.
I never really. It's been a number of years.
Because you do go back to them if you.
The worst experience I ever had. I did a bachelor party at the Edgewood Yacht Club. This biker was about 7 feet tall. So I'm doing my act. He actually literally, I weighed 250 at the time. He picked me up and had me in the air, and he told me he was going to throw me in the water, the Edgewood Yacht Club in the water, and I can't swim. Oh. So I'm up in the air. I get the mic. I'm saying to myself, is this how you're going to die? You're going to be on stage and you busted somebody up. They're going to throw you out a window into the water? And luckily he put me down and he laughed. I run into the guy 3 times since then. I said, hi, how you doing, buddy? I walk away.
Yeah.
This guy's nuts. But that was the closest call. Like people say, you work at a prison. It must have been dangerous. I've had more dangerous stuff happen in comedy than I did at the prison.
Oh, yeah. Well,
people want to kill
you.
You
also got your bars between you most of the time,
yeah,
right?
these when you do comedy, you say the wrong thing. I learned early on, I stopped saying certain things because you get people mad. And I don't want to get anybody mad. I want them to laugh and have a good time, you know?
Well, that makes sense. That makes sense. Now, you're working, what, 5-6 nights a week?
I'm working a lot because I'm involved,
You're doing some charity
I'm
stuff.
involved, I do charity stuff. A friend of mine been out of work for 3 months. We did a benefit show for him last Sunday. I do a lot of that kind of stuff. I put together fundraisers for good causes. I help out new comics. Every Monday night at the Pub on Park in Cranston, we have an open mic. We get like 15 to 20 comics come in and do like 5-6 minute spots.
Now, the Pub on Park.
That's in Cranston.
That's not the...
The Legion Bowl.
All right, that's what it is. Okay, that's what I was going to ask.
It was a laundromat. They had a fire. He decided to make it a club.
Near the Bennies.
And the marshal is the owner. Marshall, he's a great guy, and he lets us do our thing. and it's been 7 years this April. It's been very successful. And then we do shows. If it's a holiday on a Monday, he gives us the Sunday night, and we do a show. You know, we bring in a headliner. So we've had very good luck at the Pub on Park.
Right.
And then I booked the Comedy
Is it
Connection.
still a bowling alley or not?
Yeah, there's a bowling alley, games, and I do the Comedy Connection. Like I said, once, twice a month, I'll book the Comedy Connection and get some new guys in there. So I really focus on helping new comics, a lot of what I do, because I started in '83. I got up once, I told you, I did well, then I bombed. And no one said, hey, John, why don't you go do this mic, or why don't you do this show? So when I came back and I got going and I started running open mics, I said, you know what, I'm going to help comedians.
Other comedians, right.
Yeah, so I dedicate a big part of my career, which may have held me back, I don't know, but a lot of what I've dedicated to helping new comics get stage time. And I like it, and I get along with I treat the new comics like I do the big headliners. I treat everybody the same. I got a good rep in the business, and I really enjoy what I'm doing.
So you went from '84 to '91 without doing comedy?
Yeah, there was about 8-year period. Yeah. It was funny. What do you think my first time on stage was, Bob? First time ever on stage. You know,
in '84.
Yeah,
the first time?
I'm in a recovery programs. The first time I ever got on stage was at an alcohol rehab, Edge Hill. I had to get on stage.
No way.
Yeah, I got on stage at Edge Hill. They had a talent show. So I get up on stage. I had the whole place dying laughing, right? I'm in an alcohol rehab. I can't leave, so I said, I might as well make them laugh.
Yeah.
And I had a good set. I might have had the best set ever at Edge Hill.
There you go. There you go.
Which is pretty crazy. They're closed now, but
Yeah. I don't
yeah.
even understand why they closed, because they were doing great things.
They were doing great. And it was an insurance thing, I think. People, they didn't want to pay that insurance anymore, you know what I mean?
Really?
It was expensive to go there. It was like $8,000 or $10,000. But it helped a lot of people.
Sure.
I know people to this day. I know many friends that it's helped tremendous. It helped me. It helped me. You know, my life is doing. I'm doing very well, and I feel like $1 million, and I owe part of it to that program way back when. You know.
Now,
what I
we
mean?
talked about off camera. Do you want to talk about your situation with your wife, how you got back together with your wife?
Oh yeah, my wife. My second ex-wife, I got divorced twice, and I have a lot of ex-wife material. and I got divorced the second time. It was a rough divorce. A number of years went by. I had 2 children with her. We didn't really talk too much, and then she called me.
How long?
We were divorced 2002. It was quite a few years, and then in 2012 or so.
So it's 10 years.
She had 2 rare lung diseases. She asked me if I would move back to help her. So reluctantly, a lot of my friends said, you're crazy, you're going to move back with your ex-wife.
Right.
And I said, well, they're only giving her a year to live. You know what I
God.
mean? So I moved back
Well,
in.
for your kids, too.
Yeah, I moved back in for my kids, and she needed a double lung transplant. She was on the list at Brigham and Women's in Boston. I took her out to Cleveland. We drove out there with the oxygen tanks. They got her on the list at Cleveland Clinic. In January of 2013, she took a turn for the worse. She went on total ECMO life support. They gave her 7 to 10 days to live.
Wow.
So basically,
how old was she?
She was in her early 50s. And so what happened, the doctor told me, I can give you no hope where there's no hope. She has a 2% chance of survival.
2%?
She needs a double lung transplant. She's really not going to make it. And she's the sickest person on the unit. So a week went by, and the social worker, the doctor sat down with me. My daughter was out there. My son couldn't take it anymore. And my daughter was out there, and they told us, we have to take her off life support tomorrow. And you can be in the room or not in the room, but she's not going to make it. And 2:30 in the morning, I'll never forget it. The phone rang. My daughter and I were sleeping in the hotel, and they got on the phone and they told us, unfortunately, someone passed away, but miraculously, it's a perfect match to your ex-wife.
Wow.
And we're going to operate in the morning. And I talked to the surgeon before the surgery. We're going to operate. She may come out of it. She may not. They did the operation, and 6.5 years later, she's still alive.
Wow.
She works, she cooks, she cleans. We've become best friends again after all these years.
Yep.
So before I retired from my job at the prison in 2018, before I retired, we decided to get remarried. We got remarried. I've been through a lot of ex-girlfriends that drove me nuts. My ex-wife was the only one that really stood by me through the trials and tribulations of life. So it seemed like the right thing to do, and we've had some good times. We get along well. She comes to the shows now and then, and we got a great thing, and I'm really happy that I stuck with her.
And she stuck with you.
She stuck with me. I got kidney cancer 4 years ago. Luckily, they caught it early. They did what's called an ablation. They put a needle into the cancer, turns it to scar tissue. I go for MRIs every so often. And as a matter of fact, the last MRI I went was last Tuesday, Bob. No cancer, but they found 60 Twinkies merged together.
I knew there had to be a joke coming out of it.
The Twinkies are still in there, Bob.
The Twinkies. Yeah, they don't die anyway. You can eat them. They have no expiration date on a Twinkie, you know
But that was a miraculous story. She survived. I survived. We wound up getting remarried, and we're like best friends now. And it's an amazing story, the whole thing. And I put it in my act. It's in my comedy act.
Yeah.
I mentioned because I call her. I said when she got the surgery, she got up off the metal table, and I said I call her the ex-wife that wouldn't die. She was like Freddy Krueger, Jason, Mike Myers from Friday the 13th. The child support continued. I said she's never gonna go anywhere. So I said we might as well get remarried. She's not gonna go anywhere. What am I gonna do?
You can't get rid of her.
Can't get rid of her. And I asked the social worker when she was dying in Cleveland, I said, how do I get a body back to Providence? And being Italian, I should have known how to get a body back to Providence.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I didn't know, Bob. So I'm,
No, you're only supposed to know how to get rid of them. You don't know how to get them back.
I'm trying to get a body back and that she survives. It's just a miracle story. It's a miracle story, you know. But, you know, I've had ex-girlfriends and
you had an ex-girlfriend on the show one time.
Yeah, I had an ex-girlfriend. I had a lot of ex-girlfriends. And I want to say right here tonight, all the ex-girlfriends that are watching, I liked you all. You're nice people. But nobody stuck by me like Terry, my present wife. She stuck by me through thick and thin, and she's right to the end, no matter what happened, no matter what personal problems I had. She was always there for me. And I want to give a shout-out to Terry. She's a beautiful person, and she loves me to death. And I would never find a woman like her anywhere in this planet, Bob. Nowhere. She's really stuck by me. You know what I mean?
Well, you were lucky. You're lucky to have
Very
a person
lucky.
like that. Yeah, absolutely.
You know, I've overcome a lot myself. I don't want to get into all that, but I had things I had to take care of, issues I had to take care of.
Sure.
And now I'm doing really well with past issues I had. I'm excited about. I'm doing November 10th. I'm doing the Rhode Island Council on Problem Gambling. They're having the first annual comedy and music benefit to raise money for the Rhode Island Council on Problem Gambling.
And where is that?
It's
That's
going to be at the Met
right?
Cafe.
Yeah, I live near there.
It's $25 at the door, and I'm going to do some comedy. And they got Steve Smith and the Nakeds, and I'm excited about doing that.
Yeah.
And it's just it's a cool thing, and I'm just really excited about it. And I hope people can, if you're around November 10th, you can go out to that show. It'll be a good time.
Yeah.
And my other shows, I run John Perrotta's Comedy Factory. I've been blessed. We've been at Lemongrass. We do every 2 months in Warwick, and we do all you can eat, all you can laugh dinner comedy shows that they all sell out.
Yeah.
And every 2 months we're there. We do Asia Grill, Lincoln Mall. We've done for 10 years now. And Charlie Chin, the owner there, and the owner at the Lemongrass.
What a name, though, huh?
Charlie Chin.
Charlie Chin.
Yeah. And then we do Spiritos. We do all you can eat, all you can laugh Italian food.
Don't say the price. I
won't say the price, but we did 3 shows there, all sold out, 200 people. And we're doing New Year's Eve there, and with myself, Larry Norton. It's going to be a great time, DJ. And I also have New Year's Eve at Dane's Carriage Inn with Stephanie Peters, who's a
you're doing 2 New Year's Eve
two
parties?
New Year's Eve shows. I'm going to run to Dane's Carriage Inn. I'm going to go on first there, leave there, and I'm going to close New Year's Eve at Spiritos.
Holy cow.
Yeah, so we got 2 great New Year's Eve shows.
Oh, wait a minute. One's down in...
One is in North Kingstown.
North Kingstown.
Yeah, I'll go on at 8:30 there.
And then the other one's in what, Johnston?
Cranston.
Cranston.
It's the old Kelly Gazzaro post. So I'll go on at 8:30 at Dane's Carriage Inn, and I'll be out of there by 9:30, and I'm on like after 10:30.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so it's plenty of time, you know.
Yeah.
And we do, there's other, so many other places I do, to mention Club Platforms. We do shows there. We do shows, like I said, the Pub on Park.
Where's Club Platform?
That's on Poe Street in Providence. So we do that. And there's a lot of various clubs. I can't even think of them all. Right. We do Copperfields and Smithfield occasionally.
Yeah.
So as a matter of fact, I'm always out looking for new clubs and restaurants that want to do comedy.
Yeah.
I went to the Venus de Milo today to talk to them. Tomorrow I'm going to the Holiday Inn in Norwich, Connecticut. I got Luigi's in Johnston in talks with them about doing the show. So I'm constantly looking.
Well, say hi to Ralph for me.
Yeah, I'm always looking for new venues to keep the comedians. I love keeping the comedians working. I do my best. I get comics from Boston, Connecticut, Rhode Island, and I help the new guys. I help the veteran guys. I book Frank Santarelli, who was on The Sopranos.
Right.
I book Stephanie Peters. I book Christine Hurley. I book a lot of the bigger names. I book the smaller guys. I try to help everybody out, and I give the business 150%. I love comedy, and I put everything into my family and into my comedy. I got two beautiful kids, and they've turned out great, and my life couldn't be better right now. I'll tell you, I feel like $1 million.
Yeah.
$1 million. I really do.
Well, I'm glad you could stop by and say
it's
hi.
always good. Always good to see you, Bob. I always love you. You're always good to me. Always good to me.
Well, you're a great comedian and a great person, actually. You're a good guy. I've seen some of the stuff you've done.
I'd like to get you on stage. I mentioned that before the show. I think if we had a show with a special appearance by his first comedy appearance, Bob Venerini.
You mean me doing comedy?
Yes. We'll put together 5 or 6 minutes for you. We'll probably have a full house. Everybody will want to come and see you, Bob.
Yeah, see me bomb.
Bob, half the set you laugh like you laugh. They're going to laugh. You got a great laugh, Bob. You just 2.5 minutes, the other 2.5 minutes laugh.
That's it?
That's it, for 5 minutes.
And I'll be all right?
We'll have a big crowd.
I remember being on a cruise ship, and I stay away from the stage on a cruise. Comedian, you don't want to be near the stage, right?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden I hear this guy's racking on this guy, Italian guy. And I look up and I notice, and the guy's from Rhode Island. I recognized the guy who was in a band in Rhode Island, a big band in Rhode Island. And this guy was nailing him big time about the gold chains around the neck. And at first of all, he thought he was from New Jersey. And then he realized, he asked, where are you from? He goes, I'm from Rhode Island. He goes, Rhode Island? That's what prompted me to look. And then I realized, didn't know him personally, but I knew he was in this particular band that I had on the show.
Yeah.
But he wasn't smart enough to be quiet. He tried to deal with
if they try to come back at you, they're going to get in trouble.
Oh, yeah, the guy tore
If you
him
got
up.
the mic, the guy with the mic's in charge.
He owns it, he owns you.
One time they got me, Bob. I did a bachelor party. Somehow the guy got a cordless mic. He was hiding under the table. He was saying stuff, busting me up. All the guys at the bachelor party were laughing.
Right.
And I'm trying to figure out who's got this cordless mic, where's it coming from? I finally found him, he was under the table. I got him back at another party. I saw him. I said, I'm getting you tonight. I got him good. But that was one time with it, because usually I get him. I fire into the crowd. I get him pretty good. But that one night, that guy hid the mic under the table, and he got me. It was at Lancelotti's in North Providence.
Oh, yeah.
I'll never forget it. He was a dry cleaner.
Wow, yeah.
Yeah.
I had one time, it's got to be 20 years ago anyway. I was with my cousin outside of Antioch, California, visiting him, and we went to a comedy show, and this guy was being such a jerk to people on stage. And I don't need a mic. I got a loud voice.
Yeah.
So I got up and I started with him. And I ended up tearing him up. I did him in real bad.
You could do it, Bob.
They were clapping for me and they were booing him. It was really something. I actually felt bad after, but he was such a jerk to people. He was really.
Yeah, it's no good to get like that. You want the audience. You want to win them over.
Yeah.
The first joke has got to get them laughing, and then from there you want to win them over. And I'm fast, so if I goof on one guy, I'll go to another guy, so I'm pretty quick. And if I see somebody that gets a little upset, I don't go back to him.
Right.
But I'm so quick now with working the audience that people don't get mad because I'm off them fast.
Right.
You know what I mean? I'm off them fast. I'm just.
No, I love watching you when you're at your best.
I'm happiest on stage.
Yeah.
I mean, I love my family, but when I'm on stage, I'm never happier. It's a thrill for me every time I get on stage to perform. I just love it so much.
All right. Well, thanks for coming by.
Yeah, thanks, Bob. I really appreciate you having me on.
I'm going to see you at over there on Main Street, the Met.
Yeah, definitely. Come and see me. Yeah, definitely.
All right.
All right.
We'll be right back, folks. Oh, there you are. We'll be right back. Oh, my God. The Caswell Cooke Show. I remember that from decades ago. He was my competition quite a long time. Caswell Cooke.
How are you?
You're here.
I'm here.
How you doing? All the way from Westerly?
All the way.
All the way from Westerly.
We're the smallest state, so people in other states probably laugh at that.
Exactly.
It only took me an hour to get here with traffic, so I'm good. It's all right.
I was in Scottsdale, Arizona one time, and I wanted to go to the Grand Canyon, my buddy said, of Rhode Island. He said, oh, we don't have time. We can't go there. And he made the mistake of falling asleep while I was driving back to Phoenix. And 2 hours and 50 minutes later, he yawned and he opened his eyes, and I was doing 117 miles an hour, and I made it a 6-hour ride in 2 hours and 56 minutes.
That's pretty good.
I was at the canyon.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But there you go. You're talking about miles
And
versus
distance, right.
Distance versus
Uh-huh.
here. But it did take you an hour.
Mm-hmm.
What's the distance? 40 miles?
Oh, I don't know. It's an hour's worth of driving.
It is. Yeah, it probably is. It's probably about 40 miles.
Yeah, probably. It's not bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how you doing down in Westerly?
I'm doing great down in Westerly. We're bringing back my old TV show, and I wrote a book. So
Oh, you are bringing back the old TV show.
I am.
No kidding.
Yeah.
How long have you been off the air?
A long time. We started the Caswell Cooke show in 1995.
95.
And I did it till about 2011. Then I had kids, and life happens.
Sure.
And so we're going to bring it back in a digital format this time. So we're going to be we're going to do a podcast version on iTunes. We're going to do it on Spotify as well. The show is going to be based on YouTube and be on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and TikTok. So we're going to really get out there through all the social media channels.
Right.
So we're going to debut in January, and my first guest, we already recorded the interview with Billy Gilman, which is going to be like a preview episode.
Yeah.
So we did that, and it was really fun to work with him. And so we'll air the whole episode as a half hour, but then we'll also be doing like 7-8 minute segments, because it's easier on social media to put segments.
Right.
Howard Stern does that with his, he'll have like somebody on, and they'll tell a story, sing a song, and because people's attention span,
Go on.
Right. And
Well, look at what they're trying to do now. They're trying to speed up, what is it, Netflix, trying to speed up watching shows
Right, yeah,
by
why not?
1.5 times the speed.
Yeah, people, that's what it is. So we've had some great guests over the years. I mean, when we started doing the show, we had the Beach Boys, we had the Who, Peter Frampton,
Right.
Casey and the Sunshine Band. We've had politicians, John McCain and Bob Dole, and people like Dan Rather, Conan O'Brien. We had really great guests over the years.
Yep.
And so that's my goal. I'm not going to do a ton of shows, but I'm going to do some ones that have some good quality, and we're going to get out there and do some really great stuff. So the first one we're working on is in partnership with the Guard Arts Theater in New London, Connecticut, to interview Melissa Etheridge. So that'll be cool,
wow.
So that hopefully will be our first.
Well, Westerly's like being in New York almost for Rhode Islanders. I mean, that's like uppity down there. Yeah.
I'm looking to see where the red light is. Yeah,
There it is right there.
Sure, that's true. So we're looking forward to bringing the show back, and we thank Billy Gilman for doing the preview episode. So basically, you got to go to just go to Caswell Cooke on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Caswell Cooke Show on YouTube. You can follow the channel there, and then you'll be able to see all the episodes as
Wow,
they come
all
out.
I'm on is here, cable and YouTube.
Well, that's all right. You branch out eventually.
Yeah.
But the great thing about it is, so when you have a person on, like a celebrity on, someone like Billy, he's got 200,000 people following
Right,
him.
right.
So when he puts the episode out through
Sure.
his channel, that helps build our episode
Absolutely.
and our brand.
Yeah.
So as the months go on, we hope to build it up and have several 100,000 people following us and
Nice.
watching the show. So I've had interviews that I put clips up on YouTube of the show from the past. And I've seen 70, 80,000 views for a clip of something I did, because you just happen to be nothing to do with me. It's who I interviewed.
Right, yeah.
So and we were fortunate to get some great interviews over the years, but doing that is people are just always Googling for stuff. So, and they want to watch things on demand.
Right.
So if they like an artist or a musician or a politician that I interview,
Yep.
and they type it in, boom, there it is. And if those people share it, then all their fans are going to watch it. So it's
Right,
cool. So that's what we're trying to do. So it's going to be hopefully a quality show, and get a little bit of national attention for it, I hope, and have some fun with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
It should
Yeah.
be. Yeah.
What's this? Are you becoming an author too?
I'm an author. I got tired of just being a politician.
Yes. Oh, you're no longer a politician?
I am. I'm on the Westerly Town Council. But I wrote a book called The Death and Resurrection of the Episcopal Church, How to Save a Church in Decline. And it's kind of a niche book, obviously. But the Episcopal Church is sort of indicative of a lot of churches, what's happening. There's
Decline.
decline since about the mid-'60s. And the ones that are
What do you mean
hardest
it's about the mid-60s?
since about the
since
since the
about the
mid '60s. So for 50 years,
Right.
there's been uninterrupted decline in what they call mainline Protestant denominations. So all those groups.
Well, the Catholics too.
Not so much.
No?
No, not as much.
I would think just the opposite because of all the trouble they've had.
I mean, there's some loss, but it's not on the scale in America as the Protestant churches. So Congregational Church, the Methodist Church, the Presbyterian Church, the Lutherans, and the Episcopalians, those 5 major denominations of Protestantism are just about half the size of what they were 50 years ago.
Wow.
The Episcopal Church had 3.6 million members in the mid-'60s. We're down to 1.6 million.
2 million they
Lost 2 million members in 50 years. So what happened with me is, you start looking, and I start listening to the leadership of the church and the talking points. And everybody says, oh, well, maybe God's calling us to be smaller.
Oh, God,
or there was a convention, there was a convention in Connecticut last week, and I read it, and I said, wow, they started 2 new churches. I was thinking, wow, well, no, they merged 4 churches down to 2 and said they started 2 new churches. And they always talk about how to, deal with shrinking and this and that. And so what I said was, I go to a church in Westerly, Christ Church in Westerly, and we're kind of going against that trend. We're not declining, we're growing.
Right.
We have experienced decline.
And that's a Protestant church?
It's an Episcopal church.
Okay.
The Episcopal Church is basically...
I was going to ask you the difference between...
All right, well, there's 3 branches of the Catholic Church. There's the Roman Catholic Church, which Rhode Island is famous for. And when folks say Catholic, that's what they're referring to.
Right.
But the Episcopal Church is Anglo-Catholic.
Right.
So the Church of
English
England.
Catholic,
Right.
yeah.
So like when you see the royal wedding or something like that, that's my church, but in England. And then there's the Greek and Russian Orthodox Catholics. So there's 3 branches of Catholicism. So the Episcopal Church is the American version of the Church of England. But when the little thing called the Revolution happened, George Washington couldn't really be loyal to the Church of England. So the Founding Fathers actually started the Episcopal Church in America, which is why our national cathedral in Washington is an Episcopal cathedral. So we are a very American church. We've been here for a long time.
Right.
A lot of Episcopalians have sort of been in influential positions over the years. Of the 45 presidents, 12 have been Episcopalian.
Right.
Probably can claim the most members of Congress in the Episcopal Church. So influential. For years they called it...
Not Baptist?
No.
Baptist? No?
For years they called us the Republican Party at prayer. It had that kind of, Thurston Howell III thing. Well, the church has completely changed now. Now I think it's the Democratic Party at prayer. And the church has sort of gone on this mission, and so have the Congregationalists and the Lutherans and the Methodists and the Presbyterians, of being kind of like a little bit of a political action committee for the left. So the only issues my church seems to talk about is climate change and
same-sex marriage.
Same-sex marriage, which we allow, and it's great, and I have no problem with it, but it's like all we talk about. The border issue, the refugee issue, and it's just like a one-trick pony. And so what they do is they alienate the people that are in the pews in search of this mystery person that they're trying to put in the congregation.
Right.
Because I'm, this middle-aged white guy, so I'm bad, right? But when you're preaching to the Episcopal Church, which is 90% old white people, really, first thing you should do is probably not get those people to leave. You can build your brand, and you can reach out to every group there is.
Right.
But we don't need to become a church, and I say this for all of the
people off.
That pisses people off, number one, but that only caters to subgroups.
Right.
I think, unfortunately, the world of like CNN has kind of divided our country. You're either left or right.
Right.
You're either,
labels.
Everybody's got a label. And so the church has gone and sort of, they're like trend surfers. And they jumped on these things. And I'll tell you what the real reason is. Because it's really damn hard for a priest to fill his or her church on a Sunday morning in an Episcopal church. But it's a hell of a lot easier to go join a climate rally on the steps of the State House where there's a built-in audience. And I think part of it's laziness. So what I did in the book is I interviewed someone on the right and someone on the left. So one of the interviews I did, there's a whole chapter, is Tucker Carlson from Fox News.
Fox.
Sorry, Tucker. Tucker is a lifelong Episcopalian. He went to St. George's in Newport. So here's a conservative person who still regularly attends church. And I asked him, why do you stay in this denomination since the leadership of the denomination seems to not like folks like you that are conservative?
Right.
And he said, you know, I was born here, and it's inertia, and I love the liturgy. I love, you know, I mean, our church is well known for its liturgy, for its music. You know, it's a great denomination, and he said, when I go to church though on Sunday, I don't want to be, you know,
Preached to.
well, I've preached
Well,
to, but he said he has a very polarizing job in real life, and he doesn't need to go on Sundays and rehash that stuff.
Right. In other words, political. Don't want to be as political.
Right. And so then I interviewed a guy on the left, Father Alberto Cudier, he's a regular on CNN in religious matters. He was a Roman Catholic priest. He wanted to get married. He became an Episcopal priest. He's really well known in Telemundo. He's an author. He's done all kinds of stuff. So I interviewed him, and I'm thinking, all right, this guy's going to give me the other side of it. And he goes, no. He said, you know, our church and many of these churches that are sort of these American Protestant churches, they spend too much pulpit time talking about the issues of the week. He said, I don't care who's in the White House because I have too much else to worry about and too much else to talk about.
Well, that's
2,000 years of church history. I don't need to worry about the guy in the White House right now.
Which is a temporary thing.
Which is a temporary thing, whether you like him or you don't.
Right.
And he also said that, you know, what's hilarious about a lot of the groups and and my church in particular, is they claim to be this huge tent. So they'll condemn, you know, being a Roman Catholic, right? Because only men can be priests. Priests can't get married.
Right.
And I, you know, personally, I'm probably the wrong state to say it in, but I think that that's probably wrong.
Yeah.
And women should be able to be clergy members. But what they do is they take it to such an extreme on the other side, and they preach at you. And they
don't leave it alone.
And they don't leave it alone. It's like, you know what? We've ordained women for 40 years.
Right.
Get on with it, man.
Right, yeah.
Like, who cares?
Yeah.
Like, it shouldn't be.
Been there, done that.
Yeah, it's like this constant labeling. And so, you know, what I noticed going to sort of in our church, in the Episcopal Church and in the Presbyterian Church, they elect their leaders. And so it's kind of like...
By leaders, you mean the board of directors?
Well, like the head of the church, everything. It's all elected.
The head of the church, too?
So
of course it is.
Yeah, so in my church in Westerly, I'm on the board of directors of my church, which is called a vestry, and I'm the junior warden or the vice chair. Then we elect a group of people to go to the diocesan convention every year, and they elect their leaders, right up to the bishop. The bishop is elected. He has to apply for the job, or she. And then those group of people elect people to go to the national convention every 3 years, and they pick every 9 years the presiding bishop.
Sounds like a political convention.
Exactly. So our presiding bishop is Michael Curry. He's the guy that really got famous last year delivering the great sermon at the royal wedding with Meghan Markle.
Right.
He gave that great sermon that,
Sure.
that a billion people watched. He's the leader of the Episcopal Church in the United States. So we have a way to sort of elect these people. But when I go to my convention here in Rhode Island, you know, I'm sitting there thinking, how about going back to basics? Basics are, do you have any, we call them acolytes, people call them altar boys. Do you have that program in place? How's your choir?
Right.
Do you have any ushers? Like, can we get to can we just handle our church?
What's happening in our church?
Right. And can our diocese support those missions and maybe pass resolutions to, you know, encourage people to, you know, rebuild Sunday school or whatever it is that these programs? No. The only resolution last year that was passed at the diocesan convention was about how many illegal immigrants are allowed into America. And I'm like, who is even going to read your resolution?
Right.
They could care less what the Diocese of Rhode Island.
And what difference does it make to the church?
Right. And so I'm like, can you just focus those energies,
right,
you know, and just put the social justice stuff on hold for a couple of years while you fix your church? And the reason why I wrote the book is we had a priest at my church, and we had, years ago, we went through some bad times, as many churches have, and we sold the rectory because we couldn't afford it.
Right.
And I vehemently opposed that, but it was a losing battle. And I said, well, what's next? You're going to sell the parish hall?
Sure.
And you're just going to keep reducing your
So
footprint?
the church will be next.
Right. That's what I said. So then I said, well, she said, what are you afraid of?
Losing the church.
And I said, losing the church. She goes, the church will always exist somehow. The church is the people. I'm like, yeah, but I don't want the church to be like a scholarship fund, you know, after you've melted down the cross.
Right.
Right? So what I'm sitting there thinking is, if you keep talking about shrinking and downsizing, and the population has shifted in New England and everything's dying,
It sounds like a pessimistic
it's
attitude.
pessimistic. I would say, how are you supposed to run any organization when there's only 20 or 30 people giving money, for instance?
Right.
And I've looked at a couple churches in Rhode Island in the Episcopal Church that are down to like 35 people pledging. How do you do that? You can't survive with that. So why don't we talk about, first of all, in the last census, there was 3.5 million people in America that said they're part of the Episcopal Church. They're not in the pews, but they said they were.
Right.
How about we go after those people
about
first?
tapping them?
Let's go to them first.
Yeah.
They at least have like some sort of a whatever. They might have been baptized, confirmed,
Sure.
whatever, had a marriage there. But there's some kind of connection. And what about the people that leave? Do you ever approach them or ask them
why.
or just get them back, or try to get them back, invite them back? And so, why don't we focus on, we need to get to 100 people pledging to keep the church doors open, rather than worrying about like tapping into what's left of your endowment or closing the doors and just accepting defeat. And I can't stand it. So I got mad and I wrote the book, and I challenge a lot of the leaders in my church to read it. I was told by one person that it's going to be hard for me to get this book out there because it criticizes the leadership.
Right.
And they're the ones that run the churches, so where am I going to sell this book? I do have churches that have invited me to come speak. They've invited me to come and sell my book and to talk about my book because they think it's practical. But it's not easy to sort of criticize. And Tucker Carlson, God help him, when we talked for about an hour or so on the phone. And I said, what do you think the problem is? He said, well, the leadership of the church is made up mainly of losers. I said,
Wow.
now are you sure you want me to say that,
No,
Tucker?
exactly.
And he said, if you don't say it, I don't want you to print anything about this interview.
Cut it out.
He was that adamant. And he said,
Wow.
there's a lot of priests that have come into the Episcopal Church. They come in like they're my age, middle age, and they think it's part of their personal 12-step to recovery plan to become a priest. In the old days, people became priests when they got out of college, went to seminary, and it became a life vocation.
right.
Now in the Episcopal Church and the Presbyterian and Methodist
They've
Church,
gone through a whole life cycle.
Yeah, it's become like this sort of, hey, that's a cool thing to do now that I've retired. And so I spoke to one bishop of one diocese who said that 50% of the priests in his diocese just weren't up to par. And how do you run a diocese, with 100,000 people?
What do you mean if they're not? What do you mean not up to par?
They stink. They
Really?
don't have the education. They don't have the lifelong commitment to
Right.
the priesthood to be able to handle it. In the Diocese of Connecticut, talk about the numbers, 10 years ago, 70% of the churches in Connecticut that are Episcopal churches, and there's hundreds of them, 70% had full-time clergy. So they had a priest or an assistant.
Right.
Today, 10 years later, 38%.
Wow.
Now,
Half.
how does that number going to continue?
It's going down.
So the rest of them are sharing clergy, or they
Right.
got part-time clergy, or retired. I mean, you can't do this. You just can't keep shrinking and just keep thinking someday it's going to be okay. And their whole thing was, I think the diocese, now I'm not picking on Connecticut, but they just had a convention to talk about all these issues, and they said, their theme kind of was, God is calling us to be smaller.
Oh God, that's called giving up.
Right. So it's like, and now the Catholic Church is, for years and years, because of the birth rate and immigration and stuff, the Catholic Church was growing in America for years. In the past few years, believe me, it's nowhere near as in the kind of trouble as the Protestant denominations. You still have 60 million people in America that are Catholic.
Well, part of the reason is because of the immigration and illegal immigration.
True.
for
But
that
now
matter.
you're starting to see in the Northeast, churches closing in the Catholic Church.
right.
And just people there's such a huge population of America that says they're spiritual but not religious.
Right.
And there's no point in going to church, they say. And maybe there isn't. My point is that it shouldn't be hard to keep your institution alive if you just stop doing things that make no sense to...
Or nothing you have control over. Or, doing
or nothing
stuff
you have
no
control over.
control
Right.
over.
Resolutions about climate change from a church, nobody cares about. I'll be honest with you.
Yeah.
No one cares what the Episcopal Church thinks about climate change. You could go join any organization to go fight climate change.
Right.
And if you want to help people do certain things, join that organization. If you want Bernie to be president, join his campaign. But
Right.
stop using the church as a tool or as something that you're using as
an endorsement of some
as an
kind.
endorsement of something, and that's what they're doing. So I'm just hoping that the leadership will take note of the book.
Now, how long has the book been out?
2 weeks.
Really? Have you got any feedback?
It's on Amazon.com. It's on Barnes & Nobles. And I've had a couple of bishops that have read it that liked it. I sent my copy to Tucker Carlson. I'm waiting to hear back from what he has to say about that. So far,
But I mean from your denomination.
Yeah. I mean, the few people that have read it so far, it's only been 2 weeks, seem to like it. A couple people told me that it seems a little bit harsh. It is. I mean,
not as harsh as Tucker Carlson, though, right?
No, his chapter's pretty bad. But the whole thing is, I call it the death and resurrection because I'm not someone that sits here and
You're not giving up.
I don't think that religion is dead.
Right.
And and my book doesn't talk about God, or it's not spiritual at all. It's not a book. I mean, there's thousands of authors that write stories about God and Jesus and whatever.
There's no miracles in it?
There's no miracles in the book. It's not that kind of book because I don't even know what I believe, honestly. But I know I believe in the organization, and I believe in the people, and I believe in the good works that a lot of these churches do and that my denomination has done over the years. And I just don't want to see it twisted and pulled apart limb by limb and then buried.
Right.
And I just want
You don't want it to go away.
I don't want it to go away. I mean, my church to me in my town is the center of community, wonderful music, wonderful people. Everything in life changes. That place has been a solid for me.
Right.
And it is for my kids. But I want to help. I want to do something about it. So my book is kind of like, I think they wrote on the back, Caswell Cooke is not a priest or a minister, never went to seminary, and holds no theological degrees. This is a grassroots way to make a difference and get results. So I mean, this has got things in here like, if that any church could use out there, your signage, your advertising, your promotion, when you come in there, the welcoming attitude or the non-welcoming attitude. Do you do things like, here's the funniest thing. There's 2 quick examples of what made me want to also write this book. So you notice when you go to some churches, they have a guest book in the back.
Right.
And they ask you to sign the guest book and leave your email address. A year and a half went by at my particular parish where nobody
Contacted you.
Right. They didn't.
What's the purpose of doing it then?
They didn't even put the emails in the weekly email blast thing.
Right.
And I'm like, what is wrong with you?
Yeah.
And then the other example was we had a picnic table on our front lawn. And the picnic table was used by a lot of the employees of the town hall in Westerly, which is located right next door.
Right.
And I thought it was great. People are using your property. They're on the church. They might not go to church, but they're like, it's nice. It's nice. The guy who was in charge of maintenance removed the table. And I said, why did you remove the table?
Right.
He said, well, people that aren't members of this church are using it.
It wasn't his call, was it?
But it sounds so stupid.
Right.
Like really? Are you that? There's a concert that's held every year, Summer Pops, with the chorus of Westerly, and it's held across the street. And every year they're like, make sure to lock up that church so nobody can use the bathrooms. That's just not like that.
Right.
Just like you're.
That's not welcoming, is
But
it?
you're just like you're starting from the wrong place.
Right.
They're thinking, liability insurance. Someone's going to steal something or break something. Turn it into a plus. I mean, have somebody standing there answering questions, giving a tour of the place when there's an event in town. Don't lock the place up if there's an event with thousands of people. Open it up and say, come on up and ring the bells or something. I mean, that's all it is. And so a lot of it's, it's not all political in my book. A lot of it's just simple stuff like, dude, like open the place and like.
Can I go ring the bell?
Yeah, like really. So we actually started a bell ringer class, and we have like 15 people in it. The bells that there was only one guy left that knew how to ring them, and then the altar.
Do you know how to ring them?
I do. I did as a kid, and then the altar servers at my particular church, we call them acolytes. It was down to like, I don't know, 5 or 6 people. There was a guy to carry the cross, but nobody even carried the torches next to it.
Oh,
so I took over, changed the way it's done, asked some people to join, and now we have 30.
Wow.
So it's nothing to do with
Well,
rocket
you've always
science.
been an organizer. You've always been a good organizer.
But that's what the church has to do. All the churches have to put good people in charge that know how to lead. And if you lead by example, and if you know what you're doing, it can work. And these places can work. All church, we don't have to close places. These institutions that have been around. I just drove by a congregational church on the way here to this studio. It said 1649. And I bet you it doesn't have 20 years of life left.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my church, St. Mary's in Pawtucket here. I think it's the oldest church I know it's the oldest church in Pawtucket, but I think it's the oldest church around here. And they're down to
I know.
almost nothing.
And I think it can be turned around, and that's why I wrote the book.
Oh, that sounds good.
Yeah.
That makes sense to me.
Well,
That makes
know.
sense.
it's good. It's good for any organization, whether it's the Boy Scouts or any group that's declining. That was like really, for years and years, it was like the thing to do. And then it declines,
Right.
and then it goes away, and people wonder why. And some people say, well, you don't adjust to the times. I don't necessarily agree with that. We don't have a message for millennials. Christianity has no message for millennials. So you're saying that the millennial generation,
Dictate.
no, but that they're the first generation in 2,000 years
Right.
that we have to change the
Right,
message
right,
for?
right.
It's not that.
Yeah.
I think the millennials are skeptical because we try to change to appeal to them. I think if we do things the way we've done them and do them correctly,
And have them adjust to.
but have them
church.
learn the traditions and why
Right.
things are important.
Right.
I mean, I'm not some big conservative. I used to be a Republican. I'm an independent. But it's like all these things that were so important to America get cast aside, and society is allowing that from the top. It's the media.
Yeah.
It's sometimes it's the far left that does it, and they're in response to the far right. Because
Right.
the far right comes in and wants everybody to pledge allegiance to Jesus Christ, and they're like, "Well, I'm Jewish." Well, you can't do that. We're a big tent. America's a religious country. It's not necessarily a Christian country anymore, or Judeo-Christian, whatever. And you gotta have a bigger tent for people. But you can't say you cannot, take the word God off the dollar bill kind of thing. So that's another extreme.
That is extreme.
And I
Too much of an
and I just was like, I think the average American's kind of somewhere in the middle. Honestly.
Oh, I agree.
I don't think
I
they're
agree.
offended by saying one nation under God. I don't think that's offensive to the
No,
majority
you got
of
one
Americans.
joker that will say that.
Right.
But not the
You know.
norm. The majority of people would not
Right.
say that. Would
Right.
not think that.
But it's so you gotta have a compelling story about why you should be a part of some organization, whether it's a church or a club or a group, whatever it is. I need a compelling reason to go to church. And I think in the book we talk about that, like what you got to do it. Why is there a compelling reason in the year 2019 for me to get up on Sunday morning and
Right.
go to a church? And that's the thing, And if you say, well, and I'm spiritual, or I go take a walk in the woods, and that's my church, and that is awesome. But you can do things in numbers. When you have
That you
numbers,
can't do alone.
when you have numbers, you can feed the homeless. You
Right.
can do things on a larger scale. We have a place in Westerly called the Warm Center.
I was just going to say that you can give coats.
Right,
Put together
and it's a
collection.
homeless shelter.
Right.
Westerly Area Rest and Meals. So it's a soup kitchen and a homeless shelter. Where did it start? It started with 7 churches in Westerly, different denominations. Each took a night and used their church to house the homeless and to feed them. So one night it was at my church, the next night it was at the Catholic church down the street, then the Presbyterian church, and they all took a
Oh,
turn.
it's good that they work together.
And then they all pooled their money and opened this Warm Center. That couldn't have been done if it wasn't for organized religion
Right.
in the town of Westerly,
Right.
because it's not like the town's going to open one, So organized religion, people criticize it, but it does a lot of good, and it gives you a sense of family and community, a celebration of the arts, especially in some of these churches. They have great music programs, and it's just
Just the buildings.
it's-
Even the buildings.
Well, yeah, the
are
architecture, yeah. But so my book is hopefully going to stop the buildings from becoming well-endowed museums
good. Or a restaurant.
or a restaurant.
I've seen a few of them.
Yeah, like post offices. Yeah.
I see. Yeah,
I know.
exactly.
It's just-
Exactly. Well, I'm glad you could make it up here.
Yeah, well,
you
thank
didn't
you.
Did you get your passport stamped?
Yeah,
You get your passport
I
stamped?
do have a passport,
Do you?
but I don't think they had a. Well, did I pay a toll? Gina hasn't done that yet.
She
has
hasn't done it yet.
Not for cars.
No, oh, no.
No. Sorry, Gina.
No, she's got a little problem right now. Her and Smiley's got a little problem.
Yeah.
I guess he's. I don't know if he did or he didn't do something, but
I'm not going to say anything, but I do like the lieutenant governor.
He's a good guy.
Yeah, I
He's
like
a
him.
good guy.
Lieutenant Dan, shout out. Because the
Dan
last time
McKee.
I was here, I was on with him
Yep.
talking about the litter pickup and stuff that he helped us do down at the beach.
yep.
So good stuff.
And I just had somebody from Resource Recovery on the show last month talking about recycling. What you
Yeah.
can recycle, because people don't know.
I know, it's difficult. It's not easy.
It is not easy.
When I was on, I'm on the town council in Westerly right now, but we passed, years ago, we passed a commercial recycling ordinance
Yep.
and it was really tough to get the businesses on board with that and to understand what to recycle. But
Well-
we're getting there.
I've been told to wrap it up.
All right, buy the book.
Thanks for
Buy
spending
the
an
book.
hour with Bob. And
Thank you for,
check out the book,
yep.
The Death and the resurgent, what?
The Death and Resurrection of the Episcopal Church, How to Save a Church in Decline on Barnes & Nobles and Amazon.com.
There you go. Until next time, folks, thank you for spending an hour.